2.
Doesn't really matter. We're not
Yeah.
live.
Doesn't matter. What's up? You know, it's us, the H-Town Hometown Podcast. What up, baby?
Pre-recorded.
One, two,
Don't
take
edit
two.
yourself.
I know. I was gonna say, all right, let's do a take two.
Shout out to our editor, Jose.
Shout out to the editor.
Yo, shout
So
out to
yeah, boys, how y'all doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
I got a question for Michael. Did Michael choose violence or peace?
I always choose violence because my thinking is we tiptoe too much around people's emotions, trying to be inclusive instead of telling the actual facts. You know,
What's the
so
actual
like,
fact, Michael?
you know,
What's the
so
actual
like,
fact, Michael?
well, it could be anything.
It's the same thing over and over. It's a cycle. It's we something happens, we talk about it, we get frustrated, we ask for the political power to do something about it. They don't. We forget about it. No one talks about it. The next shooting happens. It's kind of just like it's.
I got a proposition for you, Edwin.
What's your
If that's the
proposition?
right word.
Or you know what? What would you do to fix that?
Well, my whole philosophy politically now is looking at the root causes of the problems.
Yes.
Right. So what does the rest of the world do that we don't? Because this is only happening here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we
Oh
have,
yeah. What? Yes.
yeah. So like, okay. So gun control or whatever. People don't want to do that. But even healthcare, we don't invest any money in healthcare, which means we're not investing any money in mental health. People always deflect the issue from gun control to mental health, right?
Yes.
But we're not willing to make that investment as a country.
Correct.
And to the point you made earlier on Facebook about people talking whether he's illegal or not, these same people would say the same thing about one of these kids if they were a teenager and they were killed by the police, were they here legally or not. So they're just using it as a scapegoat.
Yeah, they're just deflecting upon.
It's this is the United States. Is we just deflect the problem, right? We have huge problems in the United States, and nobody wants to talk about the actual problem or cause for the solution.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So this is a little different topic, but it's the same thing with like critical race theory, right? The purpose of critical race theory is to teach people about the evil things the United States has done up until now, and that's why we are the way we are. But people don't want to learn about what their grandparents did because it make them feel bad instead of learning the truth and trying to overcome it or reconcile. And if you can't reconcile with your problems, we're going to still have all these racist problems. If you're not willing to look at the root cause of these problems, which is healthcare, no sane person is going to go in there and shoot up a school, right? And everybody's a responsible gun owner until they commit a crime. So saying it's irresponsible gun owners aren't doing this, up until the moment he killed his grandmother, he was a responsible gun owner, right?
Technically, you're right. No,
and the NRA, they will defend gun rights, but when Philando Castile is killed by the police when he's a responsible gun owner, they're quiet. So it's all just a political game. Like the NRA is so deep in these guys' pockets, they're probably getting lobbied from all these gun companies, right?
You nailed it, right? Literally.
So like, if people aren't willing to have that conversation, then what's the point of talking? This doesn't happen in Mexico. Mexico is literally having a cartel war, right? This isn't happening in Brazil, and Brazil is nowhere near stable as the United States is. This isn't happening in Australia because when it happened, they took away people's weapons. All throughout Europe, there's restrictive gun laws besides maybe in Switzerland. And even
hasn't happened in Japan, hasn't happened in Australia. There was like a stat that was thrown out that in these countries it has not happened all year from 2022. You know what's the sad thing is all right, they're like, all right, they're deflecting also onto this pandemic and COVID, and they're like, well, COVID is making people act irrationally and things like that.
It is, like, but it was happening before.
But if you think, thank you. If you think about it, there were like 2 years with COVID, we didn't have not one. We didn't have not one mass shooting or school shooting, or not one school shooting, not mass shooting. And I'm like, yes, but where were the children? They were all at home. They were with their parents. They were with their loved ones.
And you know what? The suicide rate was ridiculously high at that point in time because these kids were killing themselves. and that goes back to mental health. And we don't, we as a country, and I'm going to talk because I don't want to draw any political lines. Is when something like this happens, we always bring up mental health to defer from the guns. But if it's a mental health problem, we're not doing anything about mental health for this country. We don't do anything for healthcare in this country. And the rest of the world doesn't have this problem, and the rest of the world has at least some sort of affordable healthcare.
And why is it that we do nothing about mental health? Look at it like this, especially in schools. Like, that's why I think I had put, like, I think there was reports about that this kid was being bullied and like not being treated fairly, not being treated right. Like, you know what I mean? And not to give that an excuse. And that's why I said I do not condone, or I am not making up excuses, but like, it all leads to like what you were saying with mental health. But what's the issue is we don't want to talk about mental health. We don't want to bring it into the schools. Why? Because either A, it's too big of a subject for immature children. It's that parents don't want their children being talked to about mental health without their consent and without their approval. And then C, that there's that few select parents and adults that think your children, what kind of stresses and what kind of mental health do you have? And it's like, okay, now that's when you're being negative. You're not being supportive. So we're not going to look into the mental health. We're not going to look into the issues with children at school. Like, look at it, even back 20 years, what was it, 20 years ago, the Unabomber and all that. Like, everything goes to a deflection. They were like, all right, well, he's
a crazy guy that in the woods.
Yeah, this person, didn't have a great upbringing. This person was being tortured at home. This person was being abused. Understood, but what was being done about that person's mental health? Nothing.
Yeah, there's probably a correlation between like closing all these state asylums and crazy people on the street.
What were schools doing? Since we were kids or whatever, all it was is if you need to talk to the guidance counselor, please go ahead and talk to the guidance counselor. That was it. Nothing was being enforced. Nothing was being talked to. And even then, you would go to the guidance counselor, and sometimes they would brush it off or say, hey, whatever excuse it was.
I don't know if this has any correlation at all, but when we were in elementary school, middle school, and if we got like bullied or whatever, we could throw hands, and then like it wouldn't be brought up to the police. So you just go to the principal's office, and just not letting people vent their frustrations, whether it is like verbally or whatever. It's bottling up, right?
Yeah.
So there's no release, and then you got to think of the everything is connected digitally, so they're seeing like how viral they can go, pretty much.
Exactly. And that's kind of why you see that it's an uptick as well, not just now, prior to the pandemic as well. What is everything that has happened, every action that happens, all kids that they do something, any shooting or anything like that, it's immediately uploaded onto social media. It's talked about in the media everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, everyone's talking.
Yeah, that's dumb.
And so these kids that are doing it, you don't see that they're probably seeking some sort of attention. They're seeking some sort of like help, or really some recognition is what it is. But like I said, I'm not trying to defend mental health, is where instead of going to the root of the evil or the cause, now I'm talking Jose's language, instead of looking at the root of the evil, they're just deflecting. They're saying, oh, well, this is what happens when we let criminals into our country. Okay. Prove to me that the kid was a criminal before he did that. Okay. Prove to me that because he's a brown kid or whatever, that you foresaw this happening.
And if he's a criminal, how did he get a gun?
If he's a criminal, if he's undocumented, how did he get
exactly? That's what I said.
ID and buy a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just all these things, and
if he's undocumented, how do you have an ID?
Like this, we have to think about it like this. A lot of 99% of stuff that is thrown on the internet is usually not true.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the real root cause of what happened, but the root of it all, of the evil, is that this kid did not feel up to par with something going on, mental health or whatever. Where were the parents? Where was the school? Were they seeking help for this kid? Not just even this kid, other shootings. What happens? People are not seeking mental health help, or they're not talking to people about their emotions or their feelings. And now they do things like this. You allow your child to go to school and pick on another kid. You allow your child to go to school and bully other children. And what is the cause of it? This isn't just now. This is always, even before we were in school. This has been for years. Whenever school shootings were at their highest, it was always, well, this kid was being bullied. The bully couldn't take anymore, and he took it into his own actions. Okay, well, that's the root of the evil that we need to look at. Why that was happening. You know what I mean? And then it's a saying that they say, evil is evil, but sometimes you can create a monster. You know what I mean? The kid made, like, people don't just start out as evil.
Right.
But you're not born evil. There's things that happen to you through your life, through nature, through nurture, the way that you're treated, the way that you'll treat others, the way that people are not paying attention to you, the casualties that you suffer in life and things like that. That is how the evil is created. And that's what we look at the root. We need to look at at what's going on. But no, because the kid may be brown, his last name is a Hispanic last name. Like, you know what's funny? Like, you know how many like Caucasians or even Hispanics that have American or not American, sorry, more like a what am I trying to say? Like European last name or like American last name.
Every Spanish last name is European.
Exactly. Like you cannot tell me that you won't find a Hispanic with the last name Smith. Sorry.
Well,
it's out there.
My child's going to be Hispanic, and his last name's going to be Monroe.
You can't tell me that possibly an American or a kid from the United States, or maybe his like ancestors are from like Italy or something like that, and his last name is Ramos. Like you can't say that. Like just because you hear a last name, you see the color of this kid. Like now we're judging. Now you're just
regardless, his race doesn't matter, and the fact that it was even brought up is stupid.
But that's what I was.
Yeah, it's like
brought to the deflecting is now we're looking for excuses as to why this happened.
Yeah,
and now we're bringing other political agendas in it so that we can try to force those that are in power to do something. That's really what it's about: is to force them.
But we know like discrediting the Black Lives Matter movement with black on black crime, but black people live with black people. Right, so a community that's 90% Hispanic, the chances of someone committing a crime in that community is being Hispanic. If something happens in Hudson, the chances are they're going to probably be Portuguese or like Irish. Yeah. If something happens in Spain, they're probably going to be a Spaniard. Like, so his race is irrelevant because his last name could be Ramos, and he could have been living there for 500 years, especially that part of the country.
Dude, he could be Hispanic, but he's a pure, like, Americanized kid.
That's what I'm saying. Like, no, like he could be. His last name could be Ramos, but like I'm saying, like he's that part of Texas has people who were living there from when it was part of Spain, like Selena Gomez. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Or Eva Longoria. You know, they lived in that area for 500 years, so he could have been. His ancestor could have been a Spanish conquistador.
Yeah.
And he could just be Taino or whatever it's not.
Taino.
Tejano, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but here's my thing with that. There was not recently a shooting a week ago with a Caucasian male that went and did a hate shooting. So what's the issue with that? What's the excuse for that? What's the excuse for that? He wasn't brown. He wasn't Hispanic.
Dylan Roof in the black church.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like, that's what I'm saying is race is irrelevant, and people just bring it in because they're deflecting.
Thank you, and that's the thing is they're deflecting onto other political agendas. Is that's really what it is? Is we need to enforce border security now? Okay, what about the other white Caucasian kids that shoot up schools? What are we going to do about that? Are we going to do Hunger Games?
The border security is the police were outside for an hour, and the border security showed up and just popped the guy. Right, like imagine sitting there for an hour and just hearing gunshots. Kid dead. Kid dead.
Multiple reports that these police officers that were waiting out there, before they were waiting, they went into the schools while the active shooter was in there shooting to go get their own children out of the school and then rushed back out.
Yeah, that's true. That's terrible, and they should all be fired.
Like, they should all go to jail. You did not do your job. You did not protect and serve.
Jill, they didn't commit any crimes.
I understand you're a father and you're a family man at first.
No, but like you can't go to jail for not doing your job.
You definitely should. I'm sorry, but they could have
Nah,
saved many kids.
they could have saved many
I
kids,
I
but
could
like,
see how there could be a lawsuit coming.
yeah, like they should be sued,
I don't
Oh,
jail
you
know
know
if
time.
that
they're
they're gonna
gonna,
pay. You
but
know they're gonna
the
pay the 19
town or the
families.
county
You know
or
they're gonna pay these 19 families money for them
the,
to shut up. You just know
but
that's gonna happen.
the point is that it shouldn't be happening. That's the
Yeah,
point,
this
right?
is the point. Is there's plenty of solutions out there if we're willing to actually look at ourselves in the mirror,
Yeah.
and because we turn everything political and
Mm.
everything is my tribe versus your tribe, it's never going to happen. We might as well just break up the country on political lines and let Republicans move to this side,
Are
Democrats
you
move to
trying to
this side,
do districts?
Libertarians move to that side.
Are you trying to do
Huh?
districts? Are you trying to Hunger Games this thing?
No, I'm just
I
Start
feel
trying.
small, baby.
I feel like it has been. They have been doing it in the back of this and like behind the scenes, kind of, if you think about
Not
it.
No,
not.
Which is
you know,
crazy how like that was a movie, but in reality, right? Like I don't see it
it,
far fetched where like the
it
political
was a
their own
movie, but it was a book about exactly what's going on with our world and how they decided
It's,
to enforce this thing and basically keep the rich rich, the poor poor, and the middle
what?
in the middle. That's
Hey,
literally what it was.
Michael, was
What?
it your podcast that I heard? Was it you? I heard something about that they should just put a bubble over the USA.
Well, yeah, because
Right. And then it made me think of the Hunger Game. I was like, wait, didn't
oh
they do
no, it's
that in
because
the
I was
Hunger Game?
reminiscing of the Dome, the movie, the TV show, The Dome. But it was because like instead of it was it's similar. Like I was talking about illegal immigration, right? And how
Mhm.
people want to build a wall, but the wall's not going to do anything. Like, mind if you want to
Oh,
do something, put a dome over, because people are just going to come over, completely isolate ourselves. Because if you're not
yeah.
going to go to these countries where people are illegally immigrating from and figure out whatever solution with that government to stop people from coming, then what's the point? Because they're going to come in regardless. They're going to
And
find a
you know
way.
where you know what I think a lot of it has to do too, and like it's sad that I'm thinking this way, but I honestly feel that this has a lot to do with it. Is that we're the United States, we're the superior ones, we're the ones in power. Why should we take your ideologies and bring them towards us? But at the same time, aren't they working? Why is there no school shootings happening in yada 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 country? Why are there no shootings in multiple buildings and stuff like that in crowded areas not happening as much in yada 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 country? But no, because we are the superior United States Americans, we are
We're
not going to take your
brainwashed as a
ideologies because
society.
then it makes us weak and look like we needed your help. And in reality, we're too good for you. We don't need you. That's what it is. It's a lot of political power and big egos not willing to accept defeat.
I'll say this though. I'll be the advocate, and I'll say that like we can take accountability, you know, and we should, and I think that should be the conversation. But I'll say this, like I feel like I can't blame it on us or the people because you know there is a system that's set in place that's supposed to really like blind us fully in every
Mhm.
aspect. Like it's full charge. It has been for a while. And I think this is a conversation I was trying to have when like that whole election was going on, that it's not a one side or the other. It's not that I'm the or that we can say we're anti-political, anti-government. It's not even that, it's just that it doesn't work or it hasn't worked in a long time. And that like no matter what the issue is, it will never be for the people. Like we'll never it's never been about us.
Yeah,
Right. So like
yeah,
there's no trust, which is what I was saying. Like I don't think there's no hope in that field. Like that one is just not, it's not meant to work for us anymore, you know? Ultimately, like it's if we're gonna make it better, it's almost like it has to start from within, like each
oh,
community, right?
completely
Because
agree.
ultimately we're being held by powers that kind of
Yeah,
have set a whole
but
system, and we kind of live with it and depend on it. Like there's no escaping. Like we, and then also us, like to point out what you were saying is that maybe we've been misguided with the wrong sense of pride, you know, in the sense
exactly.
of like the USA is the most blessed nation, probably the only last free nation standing. I'm not gonna say that there's other people
Mm,
who are doing it better. I'm not saying that they're doing it worse. What I'm saying
Yeah,
is that like I feel like for some reason maybe God still has a like a hold of this nation for a reason. But I feel like the only way it's gonna get better is for us to go back to that and realize that it's us. Like we need to change, right? Like, go ahead, Michael.
Here's
No. It's just that when me and Edwin kept trying to add something, you just kept going, and I admired
Sorry,
it.
I
sorry.
love it.
I
You're
admired
good.
it because he's
You're
like,
good.
I gotta
You're
get
good.
it in.
Not us, right? Like, but it starts with
Yeah.
conversation. Sorry, go ahead, and when I'll shut up.
You're good. You're good. So what I was gonna say, all right, there comes a point in time, right, where politically or not politically, right, doesn't matter what you are, Democrat, Republican, liberal, leftist, whatever it is. At a point in time is like this is happening to all of us. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if your child died, your child died, your child died. It doesn't matter if their father was a Democrat, their father was a Republican. No, you now both share something that your child was lost because of something that we failed to do, something that
Mhm.
we failed to acknowledge. You know what I mean? And to Mike's point or whatever with like the other countries, like dude, how many other countries, if the person in power really wanted to sign off or sign a bill or make this a law, the highest person in power, this would be done. And that is because something that we need to open our eyes because supposedly the president of the United States, right? They're supposed to be able to do in some sort or essence, they're supposed to be able to put in a law or put a
They can
pass
only
a
do
bill.
executive orders, but there's regulations on what you can do as an executive order.
Exactly.
There's a
But
balance.
here's the thing though, not one has, they all talk about that, we have to do something, we need some change, then make the change, dude. You're the highest power.
I
Yeah.
want to say the
Put
one
your
that was
people
in
into work, right?
office
No,
was a
that's false. There's
douchebag.
crocodile tears. Those are crocodile tears by the people in power. It's
Yeah, they
exactly
don't.
what it is.
None
Because
of
if
these
they wanted to do
politicians care.
something,
Do you think, honest question, right? Like not even to like debate or anything. Do you
Yeah,
think Trump actually did something? Like in
actually,
regards to like
I
pull
don't
pull
think Trump did anything.
those kinds of
like
moves, like the
didn't
executive, because he did like a lot of weird. I'm
didn't
not
he
even
do something
rooting
a
for him.
couple
What
of
I'm
years ago
saying is trying to
for
bring up the
No,
gun?
no,
idea
no.
of
See,
like him
the thing with Trump is
pulling
he
those
talked a
type of
lot.
moves where it was like executive whatever, where like he just went and did
No,
whatever. Like you know what I'm saying? Like
No, he really
oh no,
didn't
no. I
do a
think
lot of executive orders like that. He mostly
anything
just
good,
kind of like
he
wild
didn't
up
do
his
anything.
base and then kind of just let things happen. I mean, he
yeah.
did like
You
an
know who's doing that
executive.
right now? You know who's doing that right now? Biden's
Who?
about to do the exact same thing. He's going to talk about it, how
Yeah,
we need change and
exactly.
all that. And then 3 years are going to pass by. His thing is done because he's definitely not getting elected again.
He's
And
not even gonna live till then.
he's really not. And the dude, we're not even going to go into that because the guy
Yes.
slurs all the time. And he's like, America's about to hurt their. That's what we're about. I'm like, huh? What is it?
Unrelated, but kind of to cheer the mood up. Wouldn't you love to see a debate between Joe Biden and George Bush? Just the gaffes.
I would
Like,
like to see.
just I would like to see Trump and Obama,
Sure.
and I want to
I
see
mean,
Joe Biden versus George Bush just debating each other.
I
Because
would like to see a person come into power that isn't plus 60 years old. How about that?
well, I'm not talking about in power. I just want to see them arguing with each other because that to me would be hilarious.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I would like to see someone come into
I don't
power
think
that's
you should be older than
39 or 40 years
55
old.
in the president.
Exactly. I think they should be 39, 40, 41 years old.
Nah, 39 is still kind of young. I'm thinking like towards the end ish of your adult career. So like not retirement age, but like right before.
Yeah.
So like
So no
maybe
one in their 70s can run.
yeah, so
Yes.
like maybe late
Biden,
40s,
who's about to be
mid
80.
50s. That's perfect.
Yeah,
Like
Biden's about to be 80.
yeah, Trump's about to be 82. Hillary Clinton's about to be
Yeah.
80. They're all old. Like
But I
give me
guess
someone who
hearing that,
actually knows how to use a computer. It's not
yeah. So how about this, right?
Mm.
I want to steer the direction into this because we have another like 20 minutes, right? I want to steer it into this. So if there was something that you think that you could do, they say that like the people can't do much, and then there's another crowd saying like, well, we the people haven't done anything, and by them saying that is like, how many people around you may know yourself, you may have done the research, but how many like people that have actually gone and done the research on gun control and gun violence and being at like their town meetings and their state meetings, things like that, like voicing an opinion. Realistically, do we know many people that have done that? Because I can say no.
I don't know anyone. The only one I know would be my dad. And last time I talked to him about this, Jose might have some information on this. Maine passed like a concealed carry law that anyone can concealed carry pretty much if you're not a felon. And he was saying we'll find out if the
You mean like
crime rates.
Texas?
Yeah, similar to Texas, but you'll find out if it actually helped or increased violent crime. Because it's
Yeah.
too early to judge now. But that's as far as any statistical thing. Mostly people are just like, the president has armed security. How come every student doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Well, so going into that, right?
I know. I know, like, I don't know if you're asking like who is involved more in the laws or just who's
like
taking
just
No,
care.
so
researching it and
what I'm
like
asking
talking about
about
it,
research,
petitioning.
talking about it, participating.
He's talking about like, say you
My
wanted
bad.
to get like legislation passed, you're actually
Yeah.
like talking to the Congress people, actually going out
Yes,
there reading
Hmm.
because here's the
statistics.
thing: is that like a lot of parents, like you know what I mean? Like it's sickening to see this, and like you said, and maybe it's not happening in this part of the United States, but like you send your child off, and you just really don't know, right? But at the same time, those same parents, what are you doing to educate yourself about this? No, you're just sitting there complaining, saying, "Oh, we need to enforce gun, like oh, guns should not be allowed." Okay, maybe do the research and see what's really going on instead of
Mm.
voicing your political opinion. Have you actually gone to a town meeting? Have you actually done any education for yourself? Have you actually no? You're just sitting there going onto Facebook or Instagram and tweeting or whatever. Yes, I did that, but I've also done my research because I actually want to know because I'm about to be a father that is going to bring a kid. Because you know what I mean? Like it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, you just don't know. You really don't know. It could be a kid in Maine or whatever that feels neglected or something like that. Now he's going to go to the nearest school. So happen not wishing this at all, and I'm not even trying to put it out there. But so happens it could be near a school of someone that you know. Same for Mike or whatever. How many, like in Worcester, like many of the schools, they're not the best, but like what's going to stop a kid from doing the same? Even in Hudson, what's going to stop a kid from doing that? Especially seeing all this attention that like these shootings are happening or whatever. Who's to say they don't want their limelight? You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
think the
but
chances
what
of it actually happening in
are very
this
low.
area is we have very restrictive gun laws, and like I think you actually need to keep your gun locked in a safe in Massachusetts
Okay,
if you
who's
own
to
one.
say the kid doesn't know the safe? Who's to say
Yeah,
that the
but like
one night
even like
has the
the gun
combination for their
ownership
safe
isn't
right on?
high. We have like the strictest laws in the country, and
But Mike, what I'm
it
saying is
might
it
not
used
seem like it. Violent crime is really low in
yeah.
Massachusetts, but other than that, like there's really nothing you can do regardless. So like even you can
But
do
in
all the
these
research you
shootings,
want.
in a lot of these shootings, not just recently, in these
No, but
shootings
what
in
I'm
the past,
saying
a
is
lot
like
of
I
them
don't
were like,
understand
"Oh,
your
we don't know
question
where we got him."
because yeah, you don't know the question. Like how many bomb threats did we have in high school?
Mm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
Mm.
what if one of those was
Hey,
real?
should I ask did you all
Yeah,
write any?
not, I think it was one of your four people wrote
Yeah, this
it.
guy, yeah. Allegedly. This
Allegedly.
Uh,
allegedly.
I never wrote any. I wasn't. I
No,
was.
but like this is the thing with about random crime is random. So
Mm-hmm.
it could
Mm-hmm.
happen anywhere. Probability wise,
And there's no
it's more likely to
preparation
happen in
for it, right?
Massachusetts than Maine
Yeah,
because there's more people. So like
you're
No,
right.
but
But
no,
the
I
my thing
think
only
is this:
you
instead of a
can't really do
million,
anything about it. Like even if you educate yourself about the laws or whatever in the country, unless you're homeschooling your kids. But then what if it's your kid?
a lot of parent.
Yes.
That's the
So then
thing.
like it's a deeper question that I don't think we'll never have an answer of because it's such a random series of events. Even though it's really common, it's still extremely
That's
rare
and that's
probability wise. And I think in the more densely populated area you live, the higher likelihood it would be because there's just more people and the probability is higher.
yeah.
But that's just me thinking like a robot.
so.
But okay, so then steering it
I
into this, what do you think should be done?
I personally think, right, and I've been thinking about this probably for like the last 10 years, is that kids need to wear uniforms to school to identify them as students, right? If you can't go into the school as a student unless you have an ID badge
No,
and a uniform, clear
that was
backpacks, and metal detectors. You
yep.
can't,
So I'm
so
gonna let
you
Jose
can't
go because I know
you
he's just
can't go into the school
uh,
unless you're a student in that school
yeah.
with the clear, like you can't get into the school. Like if you're a parent of a student, you need to check in with somebody, you know?
mm,
Like,
I completely agree with you.
who
Us
cares
as
about your
adults always have
feelings
to
and
be.
looking stylish and all that stuff? It's
Right.
just,
That's secondary.
yeah.
But look at it like this: us adults to our jobs or whatever. Maybe not your
And
job necessarily,
so
but like we
even,
always have to badge into a security system. We always have to
hey,
badge into a security system to
majority
identify who we
of
are.
hey, majority of schools on the planet wear school uniforms.
Yeah.
We're one of the exceptions, us in like Canada, right? Maybe some other European countries, but majority of them have uniforms. There's this kid I work with. I won't say his name, but he just graduated from St. John's. They have uniforms there. He went to Neshoba before that. And
Mm-hmm.
I brought this up with like some kid from Asaba and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I was bullied a lot at Asabit, and but when I was in private schools, I felt more like I was part of the school because we all had that camaraderie of being dressing the same.
Yeah, I
So
can see
like,
that.
but even just for identification, right? You see someone wearing like a red polo, khakis, like okay, they go to Hudson High, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a lanyard with their ID on it, so they
Yep.
can get into the school. Just scan it with the if you want armed
Yep.
security, cool, right at the door. But if we're not going to do it at the minimum of like making it harder for people to get the weapons and get more access to therapy and stuff for kids, then at least make it as hard as possible for people to actually go into the schools. But then we have the problem with movie theaters, malls, games, any public setting. So you're just going to eliminate the
Yeah.
problem from there, but it's just going to
No.
spread over somewhere else. And what's to stop someone from just picking off people as they're leaving the school?
Yeah.
So it might stop it from inside the school, but like there's clubs with metal
But
detectors and people getting killed outside.
but remember, a lot of
Yeah.
these shootings, it's not you don't hear the shooter was outside the school and he was target practicing from the parking lot.
Well,
You
no,
hear
but
that they
because they,
went to the school.
yeah, but that's because they can get into the school. So
Understood.
if you're not willing to at least do that to make the school more secure, because realistically, what's going to happen is schools are going to have to end up being like prisons where you can't get in or out. As much as that's going to suck for the kids, but if it's for their safety, then do you want to keep it the way it is and not do anything, or do you want to try to at least lower the statistical possibility of it happening?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I agree on the uniforms and the badges, just only because like this, in any business or whatever that you go to, you have to badge in, make sure that that identification is
Yeah.
you, and that's how you're allowed in. I understand it's really early for kids to do that, but if so, like Mike said, if we're so concerned about safety, then so be it. We're gonna have to do that. If it's that's too much pressure on the children, okay, you're gonna have to have it either way or. Like, do you want your child to be completely safe,
And
or
like,
like
how many times people get bullied for their trash outfits?
well,
Right?
not that. Like, how
But
many
like what
bullies?
I'm saying, like people
Get
get
bullied
bullied for their
for
trash
wearing
outfits.
raggedy, or they're
Yo,
wearing raggedy shirts and stuff, hand me downs or whatever, because
yeah.
they unfortunately there's no more.
Uniformity creates uniformity. You can't bully uniformity. What are you gonna be like? Oh man, your shirt's not pressed with starch.
Yeah, now we
You're not
just
gonna
attack
be yeah,
personalities.
yeah, exactly. Like, and you can fix that.
Yeah, just act like the person you want to be. No.
Yo, shout out to
I'll
the
say, what do you
Hudson.
think?
Shout out to the Hudson Police Department for keeping everybody safe in the H town.
Yes,
Start with
definitely.
that. I was just thinking about just Sean, because he's on the seat. Shout out to Judy also. She just got seated. Um, but thinking about like the boys who we went to school with and who are now part of the community and who are serving and protecting. And I'm thinking like like the question being brought up, what scenario in Hudson High, like what would that look like, something random like that, or like the bomb threats, and how long would the police station take to get there, and
Well,
like
even
the
that
fire
with the bomb
departments and all
threats.
of that, like I would just going back into memory lane and just thinking like we it's all about the community, how much the people are invested in, and I'm thinking or wondering how different is it now. And I realize that a lot of our peers are part of the force, and that kind of brings sort of like that answer to the question of like what can you do within the community. And that's one of the things, right? Like
Yeah,
you can serve and protect, and like you were saying, encourage the rest of us within our means and capabilities, if there is things for you to do, then you should do it. You should go to these meetings, you should be involved. It's on us now,
Yeah.
like this is our
No.
go. This is our time. And maybe before we didn't have much of a say, but now it's more of a responsibility.
But look at
And
it like this too, Jose. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, no,
like
no, you're good.
it's happening in these dense populations, or like obviously like in Texas, right? How many school shootings are always in Texas? But we're not like look at it like this. What about the Columbine? Wasn't that like a very nice town where like
Mm,
no
It was a suburb.
no violence, no
mm-hmm.
danger happened, and look what happened. Sandy
Right.
Hook in Newton, Connecticut, like no violence. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's what I'm saying. Like you really don't know which town is next. Like it could be, it might not even be Massachusetts, but like imagine some weird thing in like Manchester, New Hampshire, or something like that. Like
Or like even with the
it's
resources officer in the school,
Mm.
like
Right.
in Texas or
Right.
even in the one in Florida, they were just outside waiting.
There should be. Do you think there should be one in every school? Maybe.
a
No,
what a cop.
Yeah.
no. I think we just
I
need to
think
put
for the
metal
amount of money
detectors
that we
there.
pay, I think for the amount of money that we pay and other political things and how we help the other countries out with all this money, that we need to really centralize it back towards home.
Mm.
So I do believe that every school, to a sense, or maybe not every school, but like you tell me you can't hire an extra cop or police officer at 50 to 60, $70,000 or whatever for them specifically to be on duty at
Hey,
schools,
there's a lot of
specifically to
that.
be on duty at schools.
I don't know if that would
Uh,
be, obviously, I'm probably speaking out of pocket, but there's a lot of veterans who probably would use a job, could use a job.
Exactly, even a part-time or whatever, where
But
now
then
you have
again,
three
right, like I don't know
part-timers.
where that.
But here's the thing: is that people say we don't have the funds, we don't have the money. Okay, no, maybe not internally in these states, but as a country as a whole, we do have the money, we do have the
The
funds.
majority of
If we
schools
wanted
have
to,
armed security.
Mm,
yeah,
Like
a lot of them do, but a lot of them
we
don't.
had Officer Perry and Officer Downing, right?
yeah,
They're mostly in where the guidance counselors are.
Yeah,
So even then, like it's just delaying or speeding up how fast it stops.
right.
We need to look more to
I see.
stopping the probability of it happening.
Right.
So having the resource
Restruct,
officers there is fine, I
but
guess. And
restructuring the way the security system set up at the
yeah, the
school.
security systems in the school,
yeah,
like just
Mhm.
how many times have you seen people like older classmen just come and talk tonight when we were there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how
I almost thought about going back. I never did.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But then you get
but
into the conversation of like,
they have no reason to be there unless they were
Yeah,
invited to present.
as
Like,
yeah,
why are you 25 years old in high school if you're not
yeah.
there to like give a presentation or like mentor somebody?
Well,
As
some of us
as
are
let
25 graduating.
Yeah,
for
but like I had a reason for being there. But there
I
was
guess.
times where
yeah,
like
let that. Hey,
when
let
I
that
was a
go. Let
senior,
that go.
when I was a senior, there
Yeah,
Yeah,
was people who were
all the
seniors
time.
when I was eighth graders just in the school, right? And that's like a
Yeah,
7 year difference. They don't
yeah.
have like as much as it sucks to say, other than them being alumni, what's the purpose of them being there during school hours?
Yep.
Unless they're a
And
substitute, unless they're helping a teacher. Like, how did they check in? They just go into the office, write their name on a paper?
and no, completely right. And here's the other thing, Mike, what you were kind of saying, right? Unfortunately, like you said, it might be turning into like little prisons. Like, look at it like this. Imagine they start putting a gate around the whole school perimeter.
but
Now
this is
you have to
do you
badge
see what
in to
I'm
come
saying
in
to
and
you,
out.
Noah?
That's what I'm saying. But like, at
But like
at
like
what
that will
time?
stop someone, because if there's a like, not to propose that, but like really like that's gonna stop someone, an active shooter that's trying to walk into the school. If it's gated, there's a security camera, like they're not gonna get in.
So Hudson High, right? Because this is the school we went to. This is the one we're more familiar with. You just walked in, you went to the office, signed in. They're like, okay, cool, whatever. They didn't give you any hassle when we were there. I can't speak for how it is now.
Yeah, probably
Could be
different now.
could be
But
100% different.
probably.
Marlboro High, you
Yeah.
had to get buzzed into the office.
Yep.
So like just
You,
that
you had to go
difference,
through
right?
a you had to
You
go
went
through
through
a
a little
check.
tunnel, and then you had to go. You had to buzz yourself in, and they had, even if you were a student, they had to let you in, right? You couldn't
Mhm.
just open the door to get in. Now, what's stopping someone from letting their friend in and
True.
committing
What's
this,
stopping?
right?
Yeah, what's
So
stopping their
this is
friend?
Yeah. So this is why I say like we need metal detectors at the entrance. We need clear backpacks so you can see what the kids are bringing in, and they need to have some sort of identifying thing to make sure they're students. And the best way to do that is with the school uniform because then everyone's dressing the same. So that means when they're walking home from school, you can see, hey, there's little Jose. He goes to Hudson High. Look at how he's dressed, right? And then with the resource officers there with this stuff implemented, you have them as a checkpoint where they're now just watching entrance cameras. That's what the security guard is doing. Like you're getting into a courthouse.
Yeah.
And at a bare minimum, if we want to stop this from happening, that's the bare minimum we can do. And that's not even going to stop it from happening in a grocery store or happening at a football practice.
Of course. No, of course. But like you said, you're putting multiple systems in place though. Look at it like this. Like, all right, maybe not you, but like from my standpoint, right? As an IT person in security, you put multiple systems in place so that if there's failovers, there's fail safes, right? So like you said, uniforms, badges, lanyards, IDs. Like
when I lived in South Carolina, this was proposed because where I lived was violent. So but there was a big pushback because of civil liberties and rights and this stuff. Why am I going to have a clear backpack? My kid's not a criminal.
Of course.
We don't know what your kid's failing or what they're doing. Kids aren't really going to tell you. Even if you have the closest relationship to your child, they're not going to tell you everything. They're not going to tell you how they're feeling. They're not going to tell you about their pressures. If they're going to commit something that horrific, they're not going to really reach out. You know, this guy sent like, he's like, I'm going to kill my grandmother, sends a text message. And then he's like, I won't be in the school in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
he said all that stuff.
A message to a friend of his basically saying I'm gonna air it out, and they were like, "What do you mean?" And then like they
found out. Yeah, so like if we're not willing as a society to accept this, and people are going to get pushbacks on school uniforms because paying for it, but they pay for school clothes anyways, right?
Yeah.
People are going to push back against clear backpacks because they want to be personal or whatever.
Yeah.
But to go into a football stadium, you have to have a clear bag.
Yep.
Just in case something like that happens. Now, do we need to put a giant brick wall around the school? Probably not. But like at the same time, we need to make sure the people who are in the school belong in the school. And someone who crashes into the building doesn't get into the school. Yeah. Right? Someone crashes into a building, gets into a fight with the security guard or whatever happened, barricades himself into a school and starts picking off kids for 40 minutes straight while the police are standing outside. Like, how is that even possible? Yeah. And this is Texas. So like, how many parents were there who probably had a gun on them?
Exactly. Because I know people from.
So this is my whole thing is like, and I have so many friends who are conservative who are just, we need armed security. You've seen the post. Sean posted the same one. The president has armed security. This person has armed security. Like there was armed security there, and this is a state where people carry. I've been to Texas. I've seen people just on their hip carrying guns. Right?
Yeah, it's on everyone. So you walk into a bar and almost everybody. So
like either way, everything other than securing the building as much as possible is useless to me because even when there is this armed security guard and the police were there, and it's a heavily armed part of the country where they don't mess with gun rights, it still happened, and people were just standing there watching. So anytime someone's like, "Well, we need more guns, security,"
here's the thing, though.
It's just a BS argument.
Here's the thing, though. I guess when there was lots of media and videos and stuff like that. So when the parents were like basically pleading for the police officers to go in and they weren't doing anything, parents were going into their cars and grabbing their weapons and stuff like that, and they were saying, "Put them back. You are not allowed to." And like they even tackled the guy because he was about to run in there.
But they didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, so either way, like, run in there, get your kids. Like, if the police aren't going to do it.
But that's what I'm saying. When people were saying they were going to run in and do it themselves, police were tackling the parents. That's no,
fine. Shoot the police. Like, why are you going to let someone get in the way of you protecting your kids? Right? If they're not willing to actually take the step to protect the kids, and they're there for 40 minutes, just letting it happen. Dude, and you're there just this podcast went on for 7 minutes. So imagine this whole time, every couple minutes, you just hear gunshot and someone died. That's the equivalent of this whole conversation, right? So like when Jose says we need resource officers, all this stuff, like yeah, that's fine and all, but like who's going to guarantee that they actually do something with the veterans? Like who's going to guarantee that the veterans hear the gunshots and they don't have a PTSD attack?
Right, but that's what I was saying. Then
So,
it comes to other conversation of like, then I don't know if that's better or worse.
So before you suggested the veterans, that's what I was saying. Just you're telling me that you can't hire 2 cops specifically. This is your duty. This is what you are. It's gonna suck most of the time, but like this is what your duty is to protect all schools that are in this town. Depending on how many schools, obviously some schools only have 2 or 3, so and they're usually right near each other.
Don't even have a school, so yeah. But like I just
exactly, and they're usually right near each other, right? Like in Marlboro, it's like elementary, middle, high. Ours is a little bit scattered, but
spread out by so.
But most of the towns are like in Clinton, it's middle school, high school, elementary is actually right next to me.
Yeah, but I just like, don't think that armed security is gonna do anything because there's plenty of times where they don't because like they get chicken feet. So like the only thing I can think of is we don't let anyone in the building who's not supposed to be in the building, and whether that is having like security guards with cameras watching entrances and metal detectors, and you're not allowed to go in unless you have a reason for it.
Most schools have security cameras and these fail safes in place. A lot of these schools already have it. But so that like that's what's crazy to me is like they did not like obviously, you know, Texas and depending on the area and stuff like that, but you're telling me that you don't have someone monitoring the security cameras? You're telling me that you didn't see
Hudson didn't have security cameras until after we graduated.
But Mike, that's what I'm saying. It's been 12 years. Most of these schools have it.
Yeah, but like security cameras are one thing, but that's security cameras along with not letting any of the entrances open and having a choke point where people come in and not letting people pass that.
But it's all monitored, Mike, is what I'm saying. Everything is monitored. Everything is monitored. It doesn't matter. Everything
you can have everything monitored and the guy steps away for a coffee, someone can just walk in. I'm saying like we just like Marlboro High does not let people in the school if you don't go to Marlboro High. Mm-hmm. Like I can't just.
That's true.
Like,
I couldn't get in.
It goes back to my point earlier about like alumni coming into school when we were in school who had no purpose of being there. Like we need to just not allow people in the school who have no purpose of being there. Yeah. If it's a parent picking up their child, perfectly fine. If it's a relative picking up a child, perfectly fine. But like
with permission and with documentation.
Yeah. Like,
and that's how it is now. That's literally how it is now. You have to have documentation. You have to like have a.
But if I want
back then, it was a letter.
Yeah. If I wanted to go into Hudson High and I just wanted to see Mr. Sacco, they should not let me in the school. They don't know what my motives are.
They probably won't. They probably won't now.
Now they won't. But like I'm saying, like
that's what I'm saying. But when we were younger, yeah, you're right. They used to come and go see Miss Murray or Miss.
Things have changed.
And with Jose, with the how do we move forward? I don't think we can because there's nothing that we're going to be able to do that's going to change people's hearts in this whole discussion. Because you say like just scroll through people, your friends on Facebook, and just see how they're reacting. They're just
casting. But you know how I've always viewed all these things. Like for me, it's always been like I gotta be non-biased. Like I always try to find the middle ground because I understand there's a lot of like things that we don't know. And I I'm listening to what you're saying. I think more or less more in the direction of what Eddy was saying earlier of like. What should we do for the let's say right for the individual for whoever like what is the better alternative instead of just brewing and like venting or maybe just like what does one do for its community to make it better make it safe
investing in mental health but as a society anything that comes into paying for it people won't. Like
and then that brings me to what I was saying. But we have all these billions of dollars that we can send overseas to different countries and stuff.
Even if that investing
in house,
but even if that $1 billion wasn't sent overseas, it's still not going to be spent here.
And this is the question in regards to that directly.
This is the problem.
To the H-Town, what are we gonna do for mental health in the H-Town community? For what's next? That is the real question. By the way, that is a conversation.
We open up what's it? I got a perfect idea, right? We start a GoFundMe, and then we invest that money into like a compound interest loan and try to get as much money as possible and just pay for people's mental health because it all goes back to money. Unless
Well,
one of
yeah,
the three of us trains to become a psychiatrist or a therapist, and then we volunteer our time and services to
correct,
help people.
correct. But
Yeah.
more or less just structuring like a service or like resources, really. However the
It's
money needs to
restructuring
be,
it. Like,
however the money needs to go. The point is coming up with it, whether we work with the community, whether we work with town electives, whether we work with teachers, whether we work with schools, whether we work with you name it, right? Like, if I could say anything, or the real conversation is, let's talk about the real things, and that is, addressing the trauma,
yeah, and every
addressing the
conversation we
hurt.
had always came to the same root cause.
Always, always. Yeah, I think if we start there and we start at least talking about it, then maybe we can get somewhere.
Yeah.
The
I'd like
H
to do a
Town,
follow up on this. I'd
the
like to do a
H
follow up
Town
on
is
this.
back. Shout out to the H Town. Shout out to
H
Francis Michael
Town.
Monroe.
Why
Shout
did I
out
put
to
H?
the Ed Man. Check out
H
A town
Town.
down.
check out Michael on SoundCloud. The Michael Francis Monroe Doctrine. Uh, he's
H
killing it,
Town.
doing his thing.
Yes,
And we're
sir.
coming in hot. What hot? What's the message?
Shout
How
out
we
to being
coming?
daddies.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's it.
And some of us are zaddies as well, but
Hey, there will be a Mr. Morale in the Big Steppers episode. I'll give you a chance,
you
all of
know.
you.
But I would like to do a follow up episode to this, depending on when we release this, and I want to see the interaction of people and kind of you know um what they think. Maybe they're on
This is
board with
what
what Mike is saying. Maybe they're totally against, but I want to know why. Like I don't want you to I'd love for
no.
people to support or not support, but why? Why? What is your feeling? And let's have a discussion. Let's have a debate.
At least talk about it, right? Because I think
Yeah,
Michael is right, and I'm feeling Michael because I think Michael's just saying it what it is.
I
I
I, I
think
think his
I think
his
there might be
answers were
nothing that we
completely
can do
valid.
or say that might change people's hearts. Because the other thing is that if we don't do it together as a community, then nothing's gonna get better. There's not one
yep,
individual that can change the world, a community, or someone else's heart, right?
yeah.
But if you decide to be better and work as a community, and that goes to say for the next thing, shout out to everybody who locked in to work, to contribute, to do whatever, in whatever shape or form.
Definitely.
Um, and for everyone else that's gonna lock in later, thank you. I appreciate you. We appreciate you.
Can,
But
can I say one thing?
the move is community right now. That's what we're on. That's what we should all be on. But we can't make you or force you. Go ahead, Michael.
And to all the people who say thoughts and prayers, right? The Bible clearly says faith without works is dead.
Mm, let's talk
So if
about
you
it. It's
just
never
saying,
been a
so
better time. There's never been a better
prayers
time.
are awesome, but if you're
Yeah,
not willing to do something, then your prayer is useless.
they're
And that's from
false.
the
They're
Bible.
false. They're false hope, basically. If
Not
you're
Mm.
false
not
hope.
willing to do some,
It's
well,
virtue
it is
signal.
because you're giving them hope and prayers, but you're not really acting upon it.
It's
Like
called what it is. This is me
how
waking up and
sentiment?
choosing violence. It's a
Yeah,
virtue signal. You're saying thoughts and prayers because you want to insert
it's the
yourself
fugazi.
into the conversation, right? You want to put yourself
Yeah.
out there that you're
Yep.
doing something, but you're just like
You're
me
not.
doing this. It doesn't mean anything if I'm not
Yeah.
practicing the religion,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
Calling is, and the challenge is, it's time for the H Town to stop thinking, individually, and start realizing that the picture is bigger than all of us or just our little clans, and that it starts with us just kind of, doing something about it. So whoever is listening and hearing, it's not, it's out of love, it's out of grace, I promise. But I know not everybody's gonna hear it, and I think not everybody's with it. I realize that there's fear, but it's never been a better time to come together and do this. And take it from somebody. You might not think much of us, and fine, you know what? Let's go with
Maybe
it.
we can.
We're nobodies.
There you go.
So there's
It's
a
so
bunch of
hard.
nobodies telling you it's time that we do something, So there you go.
It's
Hey,
so hard.
you know what?
Papi, sí, Eddy, sí, Villanueva,
Don't be the person who gives up.
dúo que no se esperaba con Dios.